No Other Life presents Upstaged. Promises. When you are reaching the end of a visit in the hospital or a course of physical therapy, there's always that point where there's this expectation or this question of saying, what are you going to do about it? And if you haven't had such a health scare, there's probably something else that has startled you. You are driving down the highway and you're playing with your phone and you swerve out of the way just in time, or even frightening, the automatic brake enables on your car because the car was smarter to keep you alive than you were, or you encounter some trouble with something in your house and you avert a fire, flood, famine, what have you. But what are you going to do? Are you going to live a life where you say, whew, made that through, or are you going to learn from it? And that's really what this movement is entirely about. And everyone who hears this comments on the abrupt ending to this, and you know a bit of the background by now of Blue Wing. It deals with a pretty major health concern that my mom was going through at the end of one year and leading in through the majority of the next year. And when you are reaching the end of a visit in the hospital or a course of physical therapy, there's always that point where there's this expectation or this question of saying, what are you going to do about it? And I'm legitimately asking you that, and I know that you're not in a position to answer my query, but think about it as you're listening to this and as you're listening to the piece at the end of this episode. What are you going to do about it? When I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, I immediately asked, I think I asked that very moment, like, okay, so what's going on here? I remember one of the first things I said was, so Parkinson's, is it a disease or a syndrome? And my movement disorder specialist said, it's a disease, a neurodegenerative disease. And words like that were going to be new in my vocabulary, neurodegenerative, progressive, and so on. So it took a little while to get used to that. And I immediately recognized that there was no cure, that I wasn't going to magically wake up without this someday. And I got that. That I could grasp. And that's why I asked, well, what can I do about it? Because I know what I can't do. I can't solve it. It's not going to go away with prayer or the best medicine. All that I can do is slow it. And once I heard that, I was just intrigued. What does that mean? And they said, like, high-intensity exercise and trying to eat right and all of the things that you might expect. And so, immediately, I started doing those. Because one of the fears in my life, and I've seen it a few times in my life, and yes, it really is a spooky little part of life, is to be sitting beside someone in a hospital bed and having them just staring down at a part of their body or staring ahead as if through the wall, and you know that they are thinking, I could have avoided this to some extent. And I know that at that point in your life, you start to think about the past 20 years, the past 50 years, even the past few months, or in the case of some sort of accident, in the past couple of minutes even. And what can you do? You can't do anything differently. I recently had my first bout with COVID. My sister kindly pointed out, everyone else had this 4 years ago. You're pretty late to the party. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I didn't want it. And I just kept playing over in my mind every single interaction that I had had in the last day, 2, 3 week. How long can this stay in you? How long could I have been symptomatic or non-symptomatic? And all these things come into your mind. And so I really began to fully understand what it is that people are thinking when they look down at their body or the wall and think, this could have been different. So, high-intensity exercise every single morning. You'll see me down in my basement with an elliptical machine and my iPad on the stand there and doing something to distract me from the fact that I'm nearly sound asleep trying to reach 140 beats per minute. I mean, that's not something that many people think about. But I know that it's doing something to help me. And I began to do neurorehabilitation. I work at Boston University. We have a lot of fine facilities that are in place to help someone like me. And I was shocked to learn that one of these world-class rehabilitators was on my block. Like I can see the building from my office if I had a window. But I don't. But I could. But I don't. So I made my way down there, and we did all the intake and all the baseline metrics and so on. And I must have done a stint of that like every week or two for a few months to solidify all these metrics as baselines. And then at one point, I remember saying to my therapist, this is going well. I'm liking what we're focusing on, but we haven't done anything about fine motor skills. And the reason that came to my mind was because before I had the diagnosis, as many people listening to this will chuckle at, as well as throwing their fist to the sky, I had shoulder problems. I didn't swing my arm when I walked, and naturally, everybody said, oh, you're an otherwise pretty fit guy. You probably have rotator cuff issues. We'll send you to physical therapy, and if need be, just operate on your shoulder. Something will work. And, that wasn't what I needed, and many of you listening have had the same exact experience. But in that physical therapy, one of the things that I was supposed to do, because I had apparent nerve damage in my right fingers and in my right forearm, was in fact that I should be picking up tiny little things as part of therapy. So I'm sitting in this big room. There's people lifting weights beside me and people getting massages and all this, awesome stuff for therapy. And we laugh about this at home so much because one day, this was 7 a.m., my trainer came in and he said, okay, would you like to lift the foam or the marbles first? And he gave me a bowl with foam and marble in it. And I was just supposed to pick up these tiny items and put them into a bowl. And so when I did neuro rehab, which is Parkinson's informed and, of course, much more dedicated to my actual symptoms now that I had a diagnosis, I commented on that. We're not doing anything for fine motor finger things. And he said, oh, we don't need to worry about that. You told me on our first day that you play the piano. You're keeping that up, right? And I said, "What? That's therapy?" "Yeah, that is therapy. Don't ever give up on that." And I'm telling you, friends, that changed my life that day, because all of a sudden, this was a realistic journey that I could tackle. I still run on the elliptical, I run on the sidewalk, I'll do my Zumba, and I enjoy all those at getting my heart rate up. But I probably wouldn't have come to them as aggressively were I not instructed to do that. But here I was learning that something that I've been passionate about for the better part of 40 years, and it's therapy, not just like brain therapy, like, baby Mozart kind of things. No, this is like straight up going to help me. And in other episodes, you'll learn much more about that. But that's what I wanted to let you know about, because when you are saying, this is what I'm going to do about it, there may be some things in the world that you can do about it that aren't as awful or bad as you think. Whether you're living with a condition that I'm not naming here because I don't know you, or you're trying to get a new job or get out of debt or move out of your parents' home, one could say, yeah, you say that. You talk big at the dinner table, but what are you going to do about it? And yeah, any one of those is tough to raise capital and get things off the ground, but put it into bite-sized chunks. Put it into a way that you can recognize as progress with regularity and not like all the time be thinking, when am I going to hit this milestone? Make little things for yourself that you can do every day and you'll get better. So that's something that I have done to shift my focus. And in your life, I hope the same for you, that you somehow, some way will be able to make similar strides in your journey ahead. You're about to hear that aforementioned track, the last movement of the Blue Wing Suite. This is called Epilogue. If you like this track, I'd encourage you to wait forever for it to be on Top 40 radio and then record it there. Or head over to bandcamp.com, search Rick Seaholm Blue Wing, and you'll find everything you need right there. Friends, you have no other life, and it's the grandest improv session of them all. Own what you bring to the scene and share it with all you meet.